All right, guys. Welcome back to another episode. Today, we've got Ryan Swift here. He's going to be talking about his experience. He's a longtime investor. He's got many properties, and I want to, just introduce you guys. And of course, my lovely wife Misty is with me today as well. So let's kick it off. So Ryan, man, thanks for coming out. Let's,
Yeah, thanks for having me.
man, tell us about you. Tell us your story. Let's start from the beginning. That's where I like to
Oh,
start.
wow.
What got you started in real estate, and just start from the top.
Yeah, so I guess I was looking for something that had passive income. And before real estate, I actually had a vending business.
Hmm.
So soda machines, snack machines, and that was a little more hands-on than I wanted. I mean, yeah, you had to fill the machine, but they were making money all throughout the day and night. One of the hard things is trying to find somebody to actually service the machines and such. So you didn't really have like, say, like a property manager like you have in real estate. I did that for a little while. That didn't pan out. Ended up selling the machines and the locations and all that. But I bought my first rental property in 2003, and times were a lot different back then as far as getting loans and such like that. But like we talked about before, there wasn't as many groups, podcasts, YouTube videos. Like that stuff wasn't around.
Yeah.
I remember when I first started, it was a guy named Carlton Sheets who sold. There's like those 12 CDs or tapes you can get by mail, and it had the VHS tapes too.
Dick's talked about them.
Yeah,
Rob
yeah.
has talked about them too.
Yeah, the no money down was his thing, and I think it was like $250 to buy the program, and it actually had a lot of good information in there.
Mhm.
So I started with that, and I met up with a guy that he was selling some bank foreclosures. That was his deal. His wife would list them, and he would do the financing side.
Mm.
And so I ended up buying two properties from him. Started with that in 2003. I bought my primary home first, I think in 2002, and then bought one rental in 2003, and the next one late 2003. I didn't need a whole lot of work, just finish out a bathroom, a little bit of paint. The
Yeah.
second one I bought, it needed quite a bit more work.
That was the learning experience.
It was, and I didn't have much money, so it's like sweat equity.
Mhm.
I mean, I think I was making $14, $15 an hour. So I would work an 8-hour day. I'd go directly to that house after work. I was doing tile, I was doing plumbing, I was doing electrical. And I would reach out to maybe a friend that knew how to do tile and say, hey, can you come over here for an hour and show me how to do tile?
Yeah.
And there again, there weren't as many YouTube. It
Yeah.
wasn't a thing back then. Like you couldn't just say, how to lay tile and watch a video about
Someone had
it.
to show you how to do
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah. So I
Yeah.
had to have a buddy or something show me, or reading books. A lot of this started just reading books,
Yeah.
and that's kind of my thing. Is that's how I teach myself. Is I read and read and read and read and never stop reading because I'm always trying to learn.
Yeah. That's such a common denominator too, people that are successful.
Yeah.
I mean, that you're teaching yourself
Oh yeah, yeah.
over
I'll
and over.
never know it all,
Yeah.
and I'll never know everything to get started. You kind of have to know enough to kind of be dangerous
Right.
and jump in, and kind of if you look at all the people that
That.
that do a business. I'm gonna go on different tangents on this, so correct me.
No, no, no.
But
Yeah.
I was watching a documentary yesterday about Henry Ford, and he got investors to invest in him building a company and producing a car, but then he got sued. I'm gonna forget the name of it. There's a company or a group that held a patent to motor cars, saying he could not sell cars.
Hmm.
He actually went to court on this, and he won. But he kinda had to jump into this, not even knowing if he could sell an automobile,
Mm.
when he literally got sued once he started producing automobiles.
I didn't know that. That's
Yeah,
crazy. So I mean, that's jumping off the cliff, building the parachute, and being like, I hope we can land.
yeah,
That's what he
and
did.
you look at a lot of companies, they just kinda go for it. They
Yeah.
know enough to be dangerous, they go for it, and then they figure out the rest later.
So I want to ask you this because you mentioned vending machines,
Mhm.
and I kind of want to go back to the beginning there because that a lot of people I know. It's funny you mentioned that. I remember being a teenager, sitting out with my friends, and being like, "Guys, we need to start a vending machine business."
Yeah.
I don't think Missy's ever heard this story. We went through the whole thing, and they were all like, "You're crazy. It's not going to work." So you started the vending machine business, and then you realized were you and this is all before real estate, obviously. Were you looking for some kind of passive business and then realized that it wasn't that passive? Like, what was it that made you make that? Like, what made you get into it, and then what made you go, "Mm-mm, I gotta
Mm.
change gears."
I don't think there's as much money involved to put another zero behind real estate
Right?
and to get a little bit better returns.
Yeah.
I think when it comes to machines, oh my gosh, you have to exponentially. It's not just 10 machines, 20 machines. You're talking hundreds of machines to really make it really profitable.
Yeah.
But then you got to have some smart people too. So I come from more of an IT background, always interested in electronics and such like that. So
Mhm.
I could go in there and repair those machines. But my time was finite, and I had to hire somebody else to do that. And not only the repairs, but to try to find employees that really want to make sure that you got the right products and the right placement,
Mhm.
make sure all your expiration dates are proper. Because somebody comes up to the vending
Okay.
machine, they see one or two things that are expired, they might not buy anything from there. They might just walk away from it.
Yeah.
Or if you put 10 honey buns in there and you're only going to sell one, and the rest of them you're going to throw it away, your
Yeah.
spoilage just ate up all your profit.
Right.
So whoever you hire to do that, and then you got to have a van or a truck to deliver all that. It's a lot of legwork. And
It's more active than passive.
yeah, yeah.
Whereas you might see it on the internet, it's the best passive income, but it's really not, right? I mean,
No.
it's a
It-
lot of work with
it's
less zeros.
It's very active. And one of the things I like about real estate, and I'll go back to kind of the beginning before, but um, is nowadays when I do stuff and I have a little bit more money and have a little more experience, we do a rehab and I turn it over to a property manager and I literally walk away from it.
Hmm. Yeah.
Unless it's a major expense, like over $500, don't call me. Just take care of it.
Yeah.
If it's a toilet that needs to be replaced or clog that needs to be cleared, if it's under $500, just do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's something you don't necessarily get in a lot of other businesses.
Yeah.
So going back to that, not the first house, but the second house I bought, it was a 2-story. It was one of those where there was a squatter living in it. I try not to be too gross, but
Oh, let it out.
they
Let it out.
had a dog in there, did not let it out, and so
Oh.
the carpets were it was really bad in there.
That's
We
horrible.
we would cut the carpet with a knife, roll it up, and throw it out the window.
Oh man.
and
Ugh.
and I would take that to the dump. But it was really bad. Kind of the scary part of that is I wasn't making much money on that,
Mm.
and now I have a mortgage payment to pay on that. And also I don't have a ton of cash saved up, so I'm putting a lot of stuff on credit card. I've got 2 or 3 months runway, and I've got to get this place rented out. So it's working an 8-hour a day job, coming home or coming to that house and working all night, eating dinner on top of a paint can,
Man, yeah.
working till like midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning, going home, don't even have time to really take a shower, just go to sleep.
Yeah.
Wake up 7 a.m. in the morning, do it all over again. And weekends as well, Saturdays and Sundays. Oh, it's a full day I can do work. And so, this is in my early 20s. A lot of my friends are out partying, drinking, having fun, stuff like that, and it's like, okay, for the next 2 to 3 months, I'm working, 7 days a week,
Mhm.
as many hours as I can get in without just passing out.
Did you or any of your friends, because people start in their 20s,
Mhm.
and your friends look at you and think you're crazy, or why would you do that to yourself, or did you have some that were like, hey, I'm actually wanting, like, what are you doing,
Are
like
they supportive?
supportive or interested, like
I think to be kind of supportive, may have one or two of them come over and they might help me for a day, and they're like, "Man, this is too much
For a
work."
case
Yeah,
of beer?
yeah, this is too much work. I don't want to do this. But also too, I had to see my friends are going out and they're buying, a nice house for themselves, or buying a new car, things like that. They're buying nice stuff, and I'm driving around in a 20-year-old truck. I'm actually still driving around in a 20-year-old truck. It's newer than the old one, but I don't like spending money on stuff that's not going to generate a return.
right?
So sometimes that's kind of hard. It's like it's almost like you're eating healthy. Your
Mhm.
friends are having cake and sodas and stuff like that, and drinking beers, and you're over here with your chicken breast and your veggies and your water. Yeah,
That's me 100% all day long.
I've been doing a lot of that lately, so
Yep,
I know
that's
how that
me.
goes.
I know that feeling. You're like, just don't even bring the cake in the house. You can't
Yeah.
bring any of that shit in the house. Leave it at home or wherever. Yeah, I
Mhm.
know that feeling. So your friends are watching you, or you're watching them party and hang out and
Yeah,
whatever, and you're
yeah.
like, but you're sacrificing.
Oh,
And
yeah.
in the end, obviously, it pays off.
Yeah, it's all this has always been the long game.
Right.
It's never, I hear some stories about, the Lambo and getting rich quick,
Yeah,
and I
yeah,
made
yeah.
100 grand on this deal and stuff like that. And it's like, on paper, you look at me on paper right now, it's like, wow, amazing.
Right.
It's amazing. Look at that. Look at all that assets. but I don't see that money. You know, when I do a cash out refinance or something like that, I'm immediately turning it around to the next project.
Mhm.
I'm not even thinking about, oh God, go buy a brand new truck or go buy a brand new car. It's like I'm not getting any return on that. Like
Yeah.
it's just a loss.
Yeah. It's the Batman. So you get the itch when like when it comes out, you're like, I gotta. It's like Dave Chappelle. I gotta find. I gotta get one of those houses.
Yeah,
I gotta put the money somewhere.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
Mhm.
yeah, you don't get the. I like that you explain that because what you said is right. So many people they see the Lambo, you see it on Instagram,
Mhm,
TikTok, all those, and they oh, I've got this nice car, but what you just explained is the way we all really,
mhm.
all of the responsible ones of us operate. At a different level. We don't operate. I mean, not that some couldn't go out and go get those items if we wanted to and cash out on some things and say, well, I'm going to go ahead and get that. But I agree with you. You're just going to end up with what? Not it's just gonna keep going down in value unless you buy the right car, and that's your business,
Yeah.
and that
And
ain't my
and
business.
it's kind of a catch-22 because I love motorsports.
Right.
I do some automotive racing and such like that, and I love cars. I love it. I know it's a black hole though. You just throw money
Mhm.
into it, and most of the time you're not going to get that money unless you have that collector car.
Right.
But even still, it's just unless you actually actively plan on selling it, which a
Yeah.
lot of times I don't. Um, so anyway, so those first couple of properties we got those finished up, and it was one of those stick a sign in the yard, put some flyers out there, put it on Craigslist, when that used to be a popular thing,
Right.
and get some bad tenants in there. They're
I
gonna,
guess.
yeah,
It's requirements.
and then try to property manage those bad tenants. And you got, you know, this guy was arguing with this woman, and she kicked in the door or whatever. He kicked in the door, and the cops get called, and you got to deal with all those things,
Yeah.
you know. And in the very beginning, when I was buying these houses, I was like, I don't want to spend 8, 9, 10% on property manager. That's crazy. That's eating into my profit.
Mhm.
What I later learned though was I was leaving money on the table. A good property manager will make sure your house is renting out as close to market as possible, but also too, they get a totally different type of clientele.
Right.
If you're advertising on Craigslist or putting a flyer in the yard, those
It's
people might have something to hide.
Yeah.
yeah. You in the wanted ads. Wanted, good tenant.
Yeah, yeah. But
Apply here.
if you've got a tenant that actively goes to a property manager and says, hey, I'm relocating, I'm looking for a place to live for X number of years, they
Mhm.
got nothing to hide. They know their background's going to get checked. They know
Mhm.
their employment's going to get checked and all
Yeah.
that. So I had a lot less damage on the properties, and I was renting out closer to market.
Yeah.
So whatever money they took at their percentage, they more than paid for themselves.
And less headache at
Oh
that
yeah,
point because you're not
yeah,
having to find all that stuff. I mean,
yeah. Because
it's funny you mention that because like sometimes when the market changed, we kind of had to move like not just MLS, but we had to kind of talk, look at Zillow. And Misty was like, "Man, these Zillows are some of these are rough. Like they
yeah.
just, there's some of those tenants that or applicants that you're like, yeah, I don't know how you plan on getting a place to live,
Mhm.
but Zillow's obviously not Craigslist, you know.
Yeah.
So, but there was a time where that was the way to go. So, yeah, you're right. You save
You
time
you can
and
find some good tenants on Zillow, but and as opposed to how many people actually apply or are interested in the property, it's slim pickings on
yeah, you
that.
got ghosted on one of them,
You get a lot of people that are so interested they keep asking to see it and everything, and then you're trying to set it up and they just disappear. And
or
you're
they
like,
completely fill out the entire app, the whole lease, and then it's time to pay the
yep,
money.
and
Poof.
then
Huh.
gone.
Well, what I realized when I self property manage is that this is never going to be passive at that point.
Right.
I'm always going to
Mhm.
get it. It always happens. It's Saturday night, and now my AC went out. Well,
Ah,
come on, really?
yeah.
Yep.
So
Created another job for yourself.
yeah, yeah. It's moving from one job to another. So hiring a property manager was the best thing that I did. That really made it most of the time passive.
Yeah.
And kind of fast forward to where I am today. We buy houses that need a lot of fix up work, and I'm very much involved with a lot of the rehab. Um, I work with a contractor or construction manager. We'll make sure, okay, we want to do this, this, and that. Here's our budget. I'll put together all the numbers and such like that, and make sure we're going down the right path. And once we're done with it, it's hey, property manager, come walk it with me. Let's talk what we're going to list it for and all
Mhm.
that. And once it gets rented out, then I work on the refinance. then I'm done with it. I'm already 1 or 2 projects down the road from that.
Yeah, to the next.
Yeah.
So I remember, if I remember right, you mentioned you also own an RV park
Hmm.
as well. I had some. I wanted to kind of talk about that a little bit, like some questions and stuff. So, but not my questions, kind of give me an idea, like because that's not something that I know on the podcast we've talked about at all. And so I'd like to hear some insight and kind of what got you into that, and then what's it like on that side of the fence.
Yeah. So throughout the years from 2003 forward, I was kind of slowly buying some houses. Took a little bit of time off. My daughter's born. I didn't really do a whole lot of stuff because I was busy with the family,
Hmm.
and working. And during this whole time, I had a full time job. Um, and 2018, 2019 started ramping up, buying some more houses. And I kind of looked at the numbers. I'm like, gosh, am I really going to have this many houses to like quit my job? How many do I really need to quit my job?
Yeah.
And I started looking at this thinking, well, what are other options out there? I've commercial real estate. It's kind of scared me off for like, okay, you might buy a building and it might sit vacant for 6 months or a year,
Hmm.
you know?
Amen to that one.
Yeah.
I'm going through that right now.
So, so I was looking at different options that could be out there. And one of the things that I did was I did some traveling to Colorado and I had a little truck camper. And I stayed at a couple of RV parks. So I got to thinking every time I'm out doing stuff like this, when you run your own business, your mind's always thinking,
Yeah, it doesn't
you,
stop.
you're like, "Oh, what trim did they use? What paint did they use? You're always looking at everything. And so I started running the numbers in my head of how much they're collecting in rent for each RV space and how much the property might be worth. And the big thing to me was like, hey, there's no roof, there's no water heater,
Yep.
there's no toilet.
Foundation.
Yeah. So I have to make sure the power works and the water and sewer connections work, and that's it. And they pay me every month.
Hmm.
Maybe this is something I should look into. And of course, nowadays there's actually websites that specialize in RV parks for sale or mobile home parks for sale. And so I got on one of those websites and I'm looking at some parks, and I found one that was out in Glen Rose, and the numbers seemed to work. Just my back of the napkin, just quick math. Okay, it seems like something that might, when we put together a bigger case, talk to the owner and see where we can go with this. And so I talked with the owner. It was actually offered through an agent. So I talked, between the agent, we got financials, which was pretty messy, which you'll see with a lot of RV parks. And that's the sticking point as far as getting financing. That they had to give me, hey, here's actual electric bills, and here's what we collected from these spots per month. It was just not good. I had to take just a mountain of paper and put that together in an Excel file to really show what their financials were like, because they didn't have a bookkeeper to put all this together.
And that's common in that space
Oh yeah,
where they just
yeah,
don't have their.
yeah. And so when it comes time to sell, they can't sell for what they're asking, because if they made, hey, this guy's paying me $400 a space, and they take it in cash and put it in their pocket, never report it as taxable income. So there's a lot that goes on there.
They're screwing themselves.
Yeah,
to the
yeah.
And later down the road,
yeah.
maybe in the beginning, at first they're not, because they're
Yeah,
cashing, they're pocketing more, but they're
yeah,
screwing themselves when it comes time to go. I want out.
yeah.
Hmm.
So I had to put all this together in an Excel spreadsheet so I could look at the financials and I could see if this guy was telling the truth. I could see when the electricity rates, when they use more electricity and water versus how many spaces they had rented out. And so I graph all that together and see how that worked. And I ended up going to, it actually wasn't a bank. It was a guy, I forget the name of the company, but they put together deals for financing and they would shop it around to different banks, commercial deals.
Mm-hmm.
And their fee was not cheap. It's $10,000.
Wow.
Usually they did deals that were $1 million plus. Mine was under $1 million, and they would just charge a certain percentage. Under $1 million is just a $10,000 fee. And a lot of people just say,
Yeah.
"Okay, I'm out. I'm not. That's $10,000 is too much money." Of course, it's going to come out in closing. They're going to get paid in closing. But for me, I thought, well, hold on. Let's not ruin the whole deal just because there's a fee. It still might be worth it. And it was. It's totally worth it because he helped me put together all those financials, get it to a bank, shop it around to multiple banks, which I had no idea to do. It was a great learning experience to see that.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times you could take advantage of all those learning experiences, talking with your plumber, your electrician, all that stuff. So in 2020, this is when this is happening. As you know, interest rates went down really,
Right.
really low.
Yeah, we missed the boat.
So, so everybody's at home and they're not doing anything. A lot of people don't even want to meet you at a house to tour a house. Like it's a
Yeah.
scary time. People have no idea what's going. Like it's scary. So I had a lot of time at home. Now I was still working an IT job at home,
Mhm.
and I was putting in a ton of hours at the IT job because now we got to move everybody remote. We have to set up all these systems, buy all these laptops, cell phones, all that stuff. But on the off time, what I would do is I'd work on, okay, this property I've had since 2003. Hey, I've got $100,000 equity in this property. This other property I bought later in 2003, I've got another $80,000 to $100,000 in equity.
Mm-hmm.
And the rates right now are better than what I got way back then. Back then, 6 and 7% was normal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're back to normal where we were when I started. It's not like they're high. It was really low for the past couple of years.
Yeah.
And so I thought, well, instead of like I'm friends with Andrew, and his thing is, keep a house for 5 years or so and sell it.
Yep.
And I thought, man, it's not, I might as well just refinance it. I don't have to sell it.
Mhm.
And so that's what I did is I refinanced these two houses together, and I got, I don't know, $120,000, $150,000 cash out on
Mhm.
those. Got them at like 3.8% or 3.9%, something really low. And I was able to still rent them out and still cash flow a little bit, lesser amount than before. But I was able to take this money plus a little bit from savings and put down for purchasing this RV park. And that was one of the best decisions I've ever. That's right now is my cash cow.
So after kind of going through that, have you, and I mean, obviously there's all sorts of strategies. Have you kind of, I don't want to say switch focus, but have you kind of zeroed in a little more on like the next one would be maybe an RV park more than a single family? Has that kind of,
So I've done both.
Yeah.
Since then, since I bought that one, I bought a lot more houses, a lot in the Waco area.
Mhm.
I'll talk about that in just a minute. But I also bought, beginning of last year, I bought another RV park that was just half developed. So it's 15 spaces, just a house and 2.5 acres still left to develop. So that one, I plan to develop that one out and turn that one into a cash cow as well. That first RV park that I bought, that was 54 spaces over about 7 acres.
Okay.
And
So who manages that for you? Is it a
yeah, so that's a great question. Great question. So that was a huge learning curve in itself because a couple of things. Like when you buy a commercial property, it's based on what the income it produces. So I have to
Mhm.
show, over the past couple of years, the bank wants to see what did you bring in and what did you spend in the past couple of years, and that's how they value the property. It's how the appraiser is going to value the property. They'll also compare it to other properties that other RV parks have sold in the area, but that's kind of hit or miss. There's not a huge turnover as there are like single family homes.
Mhm.
But it was a big learning curve when I got the RV park. I already knew that the previous owner did not have a website, did not have any online bookings. Um, Half the time he wouldn't answer the phone.
That's wild.
To do my due diligence, I booked a night at the RV park. He didn't know who I was, but I wanted to see firsthand what is it like at night.
How much money can I get out of this?
Yeah.
Get off this
That's a
deal
good
real
idea.
quick.
Well, let me walk
Okay.
around and see
Yeah.
kind of firsthand, see what it's like, see if there's a bunch of people that shouldn't be there. There are drugs, there's crime. Like what's
Yeah.
going on
So
here?
if someone got stabbed, would you just be like, that was enough?
Not necessarily, but
It's a good negotiation.
it might adjust my price.
You
Yeah.
got to knock 100 grand off. If somebody got stabbed
Yeah,
tonight,
Yeah.
there's a shooting.
So when I first called him to book it, he didn't answer the phone.
Yeah.
And then finally he called me back and I said, okay, I want to book it for a couple of nights. He's like, 3-night minimum. Okay, whatever. Sure, whatever. And then, like, how do I pay you? Oh, my assistant will call you back later.
Oh, wow.
Okay. And so I stayed there and I was packing up to leave. And I'm like, I guess I'm just not going to pay. He never called me back, And like leaving, heading out of the park, she calls me back to take my credit card information to pay for the site. And I'm
Wow.
like, wow, they're just not they're not advertising. They're just not doing a good job of
So
this.
I'd like to take a lucky guess that you did not keep the assistant.
Well,
By no means did she keep.
That was his assistant.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're like, yeah, we got to replace this person.
Because he owned several other parks, and this is kind of like the one that was far away from him that he didn't really want to deal with that much. And so one of the first things that I did was There's a company in Dallas that puts together websites that does online reservations, just
Mhm.
like a hotel. And especially, excuse me, in 2020 and 2021, nobody wants to go in the office. They don't want to be face to face anymore.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people now traveling by campers because they don't want to go into a hotel room or elevator, that type of thing. They don't want to risk getting sick. So the first thing I did was set up an online reservation system. And then I advertised this. I put up a website as well. I put on social media, Facebook, Google, paid for Google ads, did all that stuff to drive traffic to the website. And that was where I got most of my bookings, to where people would just go there. They could put in the dates they wanted, and there's a little map that come up. They could pick the space they want, put in their credit card information, book it. They'd get confirmation email with a code to the restrooms and laundry. And I wasn't involved in that.
It's
You know,
crazy. So
the phone calls I would get would be questions of, where are you located, what's your price and stuff,
yeah,
just general questions and
you,
such.
you automated it. You
Yeah.
just said, I mean, the only thing you had to do was the person that you bought it from didn't have any automation, didn't have anything in there,
Mhm.
and by you just doing that, that obviously, clearly, it's an educated guess is it raises the value.
Yeah.
I mean, by a tremendous amount because
Yeah.
you're not taking the payments, right? They're doing it all online. They're
Yep.
booking everything. I mean, and I
And,
mean,
and,
heck.
and now you have clear accountability
Mm-hmm.
because I have credit card transactions that are going to the bank.
Yep.
So I know that I wanted that. I know I wanted that. I wanted to advertise it, market it better, and his his income would kind of ebb and flow. They'd
Yeah.
have transient workers that come through there. They might be there for 3 or 4 months. The park would be pretty busy, and then after that, it would just kind
Die
of
out.
fizzle out. So I knew that I wanted to get some long-term people in there and some short-term people in there, and I've worked more to say, okay, how do I get some long-term people in here?
Mm-hmm.
And to get around my competition, some of the things I thought about was me when I traveled. What are some things that really made sense to me? And he had a couple of coin-op laundry washer and dryer in there. I said, these things are so expensive. They're like $1,000 plus per machine. The ROI on that is 3 to 5 years for one machine.
Yeah, it's take a while.
It's not really that much. And so what I did is I wait till like the Black Friday sales, and I bought 3
Mm.
pairs of washers and dryers. I put them in there, just the Roper ones. They're Whirlpool knockoff, and I said they're free. You
Yeah.
stay here, you get free laundry. Also, too, I put since I come from an IT background, I put Wi-Fi antennas all the way around the park, doubled up the internet service, and so even all the way at the very back of the park, you could stream videos.
That's cool.
Like that was, I know people want internet. They want to be able to do their laundry.
Yeah.
I didn't nickel and dime. Like I don't meter electricity. It's all included.
Yeah.
And that kind of helped me beat out a lot of competition, get a lot of those long-term.
You ran it like a business.
Yeah.
I mean, the difference was that the person who you bought it from did not run it like a business, and they were just kind of,
Yeah.
It's like the person. It's probably just like the same people you buy a house from. You walk in, you're like, how did you let this thing get like this? And it was a rental, but you got it for cheaper because of that. And then you said, well, I'm just going to automate it and turn it into a business, and boom.
Yeah. There's so much value add in that. Like there's a couple of cabins, and by cabins I mean like Home Depot sheds that were turned into like I mean they have a little kitchenette and a little
Yeah.
shower and a toilet. One of those we remodeled, and then also too the main building was about 3,000 square feet, and it had one big apartment that was split in half, but the second one didn't have a bathroom,
Hmm.
so you had to go out to the main area to use a bathroom. We remodeled both of those, and the cabins right now they stay booked all the time on Airbnb. Like
Oh wow.
he would not advertise them or anything. Somebody'd actually have to ask, and he'd rent them out for like $500 a month.
So you just use Airbnb for those.
And
that's-
now I'm making double that, over $1,000 a month on each cabin.
yeah.
And so I brought in another one too. So we brought in a third one, and we built that one out, and that's renting out as well. And then the half of the main building is rented out as 2 apartments as well. And I've got another little spare room. We cut that off and made that storage, and somebody rented that out. So there's another, $700 for the back apartment, $1,000 for the middle one, $150 for that one. I just had somebody rent out the front office because they needed a place to stay. That's another $600 a month.
Man.
That place is generating nothing before.
Yeah. I think some people are going to hear this and be like, I think you sold me, Ryan. I don't have to hear much more.
So-
Where do I start? So,
so
how did you manage it all? Though?
That's all the upside. Let's
Yeah.
talk about the
Yeah,
downside.
yeah,
Let's
that's
talk
the
about.
fun.
Well,
Yeah,
do
there's
you have
always that.
anybody on site at all for
I did.
cameras?
I did in the very beginning. Well, let me back up. So back to the IT background. I put 10 cameras. There's all around the main building. There's 2 cameras at every corner.
Mhm.
There's a camera in the hallway. There's a camera at the back door. There's a camera at the front door. I can see almost every space,
Okay,
from my phone right here.
Right.
good.
I can pull it up on my phone and I can see who's in what space. Or my computer screen at home, I can,
Make sure
like
they
a
leave
security.
when they're supposed to.
Yeah, that's the big thing is seeing, who's in what space and make sure the right people there. Because I've had before, somebody just pulls up and wants to squat.
Mhm.
That's not real
What is
common, but
that?
I've had that happen. Where somebody pulls up and just connects.
Yeah.
But the bigger thing is like, we've had the cops come out there. Okay, what really happened? What happened with this or that? So to have those cameras there I live an hour and a half away from the RV park,
Mhm.
so I'm not there every day. In the very beginning, that worked perfect. Somebody book it. I could check it every day on the cameras and see who's there. If there's a major issue, yeah, I could drive out there, and work on it. I have my camper out there as well. So if I need to go out there and work and spend the night, and remember too, during the pandemic, nobody's going into the office, but I meant I could work remote, and that's what made this deal work.
Right.
Is because I could sit there in that front office of the RV park and I could do my IT job for 8 hours in the day. And then in the afternoon, I could go out there and repair some things, some deferred maintenance that the previous owner didn't do. So I could
Mm.
get all those cameras set up and the Wi-Fi antenna set up and all that. So I could get all that going. With that said, there's no property management company that wants to manage an RV park. It's you got to hire an assistant or a park host or something like that.
Yeah.
I've had a couple of park hosts. I thought that was the way to go. I had one person that husband and wife team, and I gave them, okay, you guys can stay here for free. You know, they wouldn't set good boundaries, so people would come to
Mm.
them at 2 a.m. Hey, can you check my mail tomorrow? And you got to set boundaries if
Yeah.
you're property manager or anything like that. You got to, hey, if 3 a.m. you shouldn't come to my door. If your camper's on fire, don't come to my door. Call the fire department.
Yeah.
Like there should be no reason you're coming to my door at 3 a.m. And then I had another park host that, she got, and we found out she was doing some drugs and she was letting some people kind of skip on rent, that type of thing.
Mm.
And she's becoming, as you know, with like tenants, you have to keep it at arm's length distance.
Yeah.
You want to be nice to them and friend. You don't want to be a friend to them
Yeah.
because their problems will become your problem before you know it. So you want to be nice and compassionate to them. But also too, like, this is a pay in advance. If you don't pay in advance, then sorry, you got to go.
Yeah.
And so she would let
Mm.
people skip out. And, if people get a month or 2 months behind, they're not going to catch up.
Yeah.
Is it common that you had people stay there for, quite some time versus, did you have more people stay there for a long time, like longer term than, someone who came in for a weekend or whatnot?
You mean as far as long-term versus short-term
Yeah.
people?
I mean, did you have more long-term
Yeah,
individuals that,
so we have a lot of people there's multiple classes of people. I have my traveling workers. I love
Mhm.
my traveling workers. They work, they go home, they want to sleep, and it just don't cause any problems. I also have people that are fixed income, and those people most of the time are great as well. That can be for what other reason they're maybe on Social Security or a payout or disability or something like that, and they can't afford $1,000, $1,200, $1,500 a month for an apartment plus utilities.
Mhm.
So this is a cheap way for them to live. And those people most of the time are great. If anything, I hear about, so-and-so's dog pooped on my yard or so-and-so's parking in my area
Yeah.
that are causing noise. And then I also get some people who have some bad life choices. I don't
Mm.
want to be derogatory to any one way or another, but
Yeah.
for whatever reason, they cause problems. Either they're doing things illegal, they're causing noise complaints, that type of thing. And a lot of these people would be the type that think they're entitled or, I'll pay you later. I'll pay you later. No, that's not how it's not a negotiation. It's
Yeah.
not how that works. And some of those, in the very beginning when we had to, it was a learning curve. Like, how do you get these people out? I've had people confront me like they're ready to fight me. And
Yeah.
this is for real. Like people, when they're back on their side, I have to put myself in their shoes sometimes to see kind of where they're coming from. their back might be against the wall and they have nowhere else to go, no money, and they're going to be homeless, you
Mhm.
know? But also, too, on my side, I'm running a business and I'm going to lose good customers and hurt my business because this person is drunk and disorderly at 2 a.m. in the morning and the sheriff's getting called out there. And,
Yeah.
good people are saying, well, hey, I'm leaving. I'm not listening to this guy or these problems or whatever.
Yeah.
So I have to settle somewhere in between and being like, okay, you're getting out.
You have a tow truck, like just like your own RV tow
Oh,
truck that sits there next to like the office. Then you just kind of look over at it and go, "I'm gonna grab it.
so,
We're gonna get you out of here if you don't calm
so
it down."
the problem with that though is that's kind of a gray area right now for a lot of
Yeah.
RV parks. There's not good rules set up for where that is. It's a quasi hotel, quasi tenant. So in the very beginning, we started by we do evictions on people, and that was a pain because then a person could stay there for another 30 days or more,
Hmm.
and they could drive away other customers, and it's
Yeah.
frustrating. They're not paying you; they're literally stealing utilities, and now they're going to go and wash clothes and have all their friends wash clothes and all this stuff. Oh, it
So
was
you're just walking by and looking at them, and they're washing their clothes.
it was very aggravating, and I tell you, a lot of times, especially out there, the sheriff's department doesn't do a whole lot.
Yeah.
And I had a guy that stole laundry, it was one of my Airbnb guests, put his laundry in there, went back to his cabin, and then this guy who wasn't paying me, he went in there and stole this guy's laundry and took it to his
Man.
camper. And I have it
Crazy.
recorded on camera, and so I go knocking on this guy's door, and I mean, I'm hot. I try not to get upset because then you
Yeah.
lose you lose your
Yeah.
edge, But I'm hot. I'm like, come out here right now. I'm calling the sheriff, and wouldn't come out. The guy's scared of me. Doesn't want to show his face. Okay, I'll call the sheriff. Sheriff comes out there, and then he comes out crying. This guy's harassing me. He's harassing me. He's asking me for rent. And I'm like, seriously? And
That's crazy.
I talked to the sheriff and I said, look, I have on video. I showed him my laptop. This guy's stealing laundry.
Yeah.
And the sheriff says, "Is it your laundry?" I said, "No, it's my Airbnb guest." "Where's he at?" "Well, he's at work right now." "There's nothing I can do about that."
Oh
Are you
man,
kidding me?
it's on camera.
I have this guy literally taking it to his camper.
Yeah.
And then the sheriff tells me too that I can't ask this guy for rent. Like it could be considered harassment. He could press a case against me.
That's wild.
Oh, I'm just like at that point you're backed up against the wall. Like, well, what do I do?
Yeah.
And I told the sheriff, I'm like, look, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I said, I'm going to hook this guy's trailer to my truck. I don't care. I'm going to drag that.
Mhm.
I'll leave all the cuss words out.
I'll say I'm gonna drag that motherfucker out.
Yeah, I'm going to drag it out to the street, and that's going to be your problem. And he says, you know what? If you do that, I'll arrest you right now.
That's crazy.
I said, are you serious? This is my property. I want him off my property.
Yeah.
He says, you can't touch his property. You can't move his camper.
That's wild.
That was crazy. And, so we had to go through the whole eviction process and all that. He waited to the very last day. This is one of those guys that, like, I would come up, like, the day of court, I'd tell him, like, hey, do you have my money?
Mm-hmm.
And he'd be like, oh, I'm recording you. You're harassing me and all this. And what he's doing is he's trying to get me to get angry, to take a swing at him or something like that.
Right.
Because then he has a case,
Yeah.
and you just have to, bite your tongue and be like, okay, I'm not going to let this get to me. If I take a swing at him, I'm going to lose the whole court case and
Yeah.
everything. Then he's got
Yeah.
a case against me, and he can sue me and my business.
Yeah.
It's just, okay, I'll see you at court. Of course, he doesn't show up, he's going to lose the hearing. But then after the court, he knows he can wait a week before I can file a writ of possession. and get him
Man.
out. He will wait to the very last minute and then hook up his stuff and drag it out. And then the next day, he leaves me a 1-star review on Google. And I'm like, God, like, you gotta be kidding me. And this guy's just like lying about all the stuff he's writing bad is all the stuff he did. And I said on this, I'm like, you can't call Google and just be like, I don't like this review, take
Yeah.
it off.
Yeah.
Did
I
you
know
post
that.
the eviction paperwork?
So I sat on this for a couple of days. And I thought, what do I do? This really brings my business down, as far as how many stars. And so as like a 1-sentence reply, I think I said, you were removed from the park by a court order. And that was my reply to that.
Yeah.
And the thing is, when you reply to that, that goes to your profile on, So somebody looks at you as a person on Google,
Yep.
they'll see that and they'll see the replies. He didn't like that because it showed that he was, removed from there by the court. So he removed his review from my business. And I'm like, perfect. It all went away.
That's
great.
Misty. That's what we need to do. We over the years on a martial arts school, we've been through some pretty what? You put a bad review? Right there, Misty. That's our solving.
And the thing is, I imagine it's got to be hard for you as well because like I could take this guy.
Yeah.
I could just knock him.
Dude.
I could knock him out like that.
So many parents I could choke. That's right. I said it. You can put that on a reel too. So many parents I could choke.
but it's like you got to think if I just chop this guy and knock him to the ground, it's going to be a lawsuit. It's going to be thousands of dollars in court and in battle. What I learned going forward from that, I spent a lot of time reading all the code books and stuff and water utilities and Texas Penal Code and all that stuff, and found out that there's certain statutes in there that I can disconnect or lock out utilities.
Yeah.
Whereas like a house, you cannot do that.
Correct.
Tenant, you cannot do that. Since this is a pay in advance type situation, you're paying advance for this in a month-to-month situation. Now what I do is I reference that in my rules, and that's posted to the restroom door and the front door. They also get that in an email as well.
Yeah.
So that's very clear that these are the rules. And if you don't follow these rules, then this is what will happen. And that works so much better. I had one guy that he was supposed to move out. And I saw on the camera that, why is it this? Oh, no, sorry. I didn't see it on the camera. I got a call from somebody else that's moving into the space, and they're like, somebody's already here. Like, what's the deal? And I'm like, what the heck? And I go and find out that this guy, his reservation expired, and he wasn't paying me anymore, and he was just squatting there. And so I confronted him. I said, well, hey, man, you got to pay up. Like, you got to pay up. You got to go. You extended your reservation. You didn't even tell me, first of all. And he's like, wow, man, I don't have the money. I'll have it to you next month or whatever. I'm like, that's not how this works.
Yeah.
And there again, he feels like he's entitled to stay there for a couple of months and work a deal with me. He's like, well, I'll do some work for you. I don't need work, Yeah, a lot of times I don't want to get in that type of relationship to where one person owes another person. That's a bad situation.
Yeah.
So I told him, I was like, hey, I'm going to walk out. I'm going to disconnect your electricity and lock you out. And I got a lock. And the utility boxes have a little ring you can lock it. I unplugged his camper and I locked it. And it's summertime. It's 100 degrees outside.
He moved to a different lot.
No, he wasn't that smart. And he came out there. He's like, "What are you doing, man?" I'm like, "Dude, I looked at him face to face. I'm like, you're stealing from me.
Yeah.
You're literally stealing from me. You didn't even ask for this or anything. You're squatting. You're stealing from me."
Man.
I said, "This isn't right. You got to go. I'm turning it off." And within a couple hours, he's hitched up and he's ready to hit the road, And I asked him as he's leaving, I said, what was your plan? Well, you're just going to stay here and steal from me as long as you can? And then, of course, he's, oh, this park sucks, and I hate this, and this is bad, and that's bad. And I'm like, yeah, it's bad when you got to pay up,
Yeah.
But from now on, that's what I do. Is if somebody's a problem, I don't get emotional about it. Don't get angry about it. I go lock the box. Hey, if you can pay me, great.
Yeah.
If you can't, go. I still have the compassion there. Okay. Now, I don't want to say that I've lost all compassion. It's mainly if somebody's in my face yelling at me or causing a problem. If somebody calls me up a couple of weeks before and they're like, dude, I just lost my job. I'm working another job. I can pay you $100. I can pay you $50. I really want to help. I really want to stay here. I'll be like, totally. Yeah, fine, man. As long as you're giving me $50 here, $100 here, to pay up, I'll totally work with you. And we've worked with several people that it might take a few months to get them all caught up.
Let you know ahead of time.
Yeah.
Be in communication and follow through with what you said you were going to do.
I think just as investors and landlords, period. I mean, we have a responsibility to have a nice place and take care of our stuff. That's why when we walk through some of these properties, I shake my head and I'm like, it's crazy that someone lets someone live like that. And I'm not saying they got to give all, everything's going to be free or whatever. Just our responsibility is that's why people are, oh, the landlord's evil. But we're really, the good ones, we're not out there like that. That's not what we're trying to do. We're not trying to screw someone over or just take advantage. I mean, it's a service, and there's a fair trade-off there. It should be like that. So it makes sense for you to be like, hey, look, I try to work with these individuals.
Yeah. And I've had a couple of people that say they're at the RV site and they have a medical emergency and they've got a big bill that came up,
Yeah.
maybe they're out of work for a couple of weeks. And, to them, $400 a month is all they can afford.
Mhm.
They're on a different scale, to where $25 is a big thing to them. $50 is a big thing for them.
Mhm.
They don't have a whole lot of money. A lot of these people are on fixed income. And so I have to be cognizant of that and try to work with them. But at the same point too, it's a business.
Mhm.
With that said, I've advertised a lot, we're putting the sign out front, social media, Google, and I've got to where I'm about 50-50. So I'm about 50% long term and about 50% short term.
Mm.
And so that's really smoothed out kind of the ebb and flow of income of the park. And right now, oh my gosh, it's making it to where I've got several construction projects going on in Waco,
Yeah.
and it is floating all of that, all those holding costs and stuff.
That's awesome.
It's floating all of
So
that.
you turning it around and kind of evening out and making it, where it's 50 long term and 50 short term, it makes
Mhm.
it to where it it covers itself plus other things.
Yeah,
So
yeah, and hired a bookkeeper. Bookkeeper does all the books. So in 3, 5, 10 years down the road, if I want to sell it,
yeah.
this is done by an accountant. You can see all this, and I filed taxes on all this.
Mm-hmm.
That you can see exactly how much money the park made. And even if I don't sell it in 3 to 5 years, when it's time to refinance, hey, maybe I'll take out $250,000 and go buy another park.
Yeah.
So, do you have a vending machine there?
I thought about that. I really did think about it. It was tempting.
Oh, Misty.
It was tempting.
That's my wife.
I
right
don't.
there.
I don't. I don't. It's one thing I did do though is I did so in last year 2020, I did a couple of big things. One of the big things I did is in February, a year ago now, I quit my IT job.
I was going to ask you that.
Yeah.
When did you say, man, I'm going to put it,
Yeah,
I'm stepping down?
So I had about a year and a half with the RV park. And what I did is for the last year that I was employed, there's a book called Profit First.
Oh, I love that book.
Great
I
book.
love that book.
Okay. So for years, I put every penny back into the business.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, am I going to just keep doing this forever? Well, what am I really? Okay,
Yeah.
I'm building assets, whatever. What am I actually getting off of this? So after I read Profit First, I was like, I got to start somewhere, even if it's $1. I got to pay myself. And so I started paying myself $3,000 a month. I'm like, that's I can live off that, $36,000 a year.
Yeah.
I'm real frugal. As you know, 20-year-old truck, my house is paid off. Like I don't spend a lot of money. When it comes to like $500 for the truck, I'm like, do I really need that? But if it's $20,000 to remodel this kitchen that I can, exponentially bring that, more ROI, heck yeah, let's do it. Sure.
Yep.
I'll sign off on $10,000 like it's nothing.
No question.
If it has the right ROI, if I can bring it back in a year or two, sure, let's do it. If it's putting a cabin at the RV park and we're going to spend $20,000 to put it together, but I'm going to make $2,000 a month, yeah, do it. Ton.
Yeah.
Signed off here, build it.
Fast.
Sorry. Oh, so I paid myself $3,000 a month for an entire year, and all my W-2 money, I just put it in savings. I'm like, well, let me just try this for a year.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just going to live off of the money from real estate. And I just started stockpiling all that money into the savings account. And I lived off the $3,000 a month. So after a year of doing that, I thought, I can do this.
Yeah.
And, I gave my employer, I gave him, I think it was about 90-day notice. They've been great to me. It's been over a decade I've been working with them. And I didn't want to burn any bridges either. I planned to do like some contract work. Okay. If you need me to set up some servers or something like that and, travel a little bit, we have actually put together a contract of like, okay, for this X amount of dollar per hour, you can hire me to do some stuff. I said, but I don't want to be full-time. Don't hire me back full-time. I made it high enough to where they wouldn't do it full-time,
Right.
but not low enough to where they'd never call me. And so after 3 months, we split ways. And I tell you, that's really hard when you walk away from a 6-figure job and something that I could have for another 10 years, another 20 years. That stability, healthcare, all that stuff they provided, retirement, 401k match, all that stuff. it was really hard to walk away from that. Really hard because growing up, it's like my grandparents and my parents, stability, stability, stability. They came from the ages where you go to college and you work a career for your entire life.
Right.
Don't turn your back on your employer that's treating you well. So in one way, I'm scared. Like I'm walking away from six figures, but another way, it was so freeing because the next day it was up to me.
Right.
I could do whatever I wanted to do.
You're like, this is me now.
Yeah, if I want to jump on my dirt bike and ride up this mountain for a week, I can do that.
Yeah.
Or what I did is I bought a dozen more houses.
So you basically, I mean, and I, when we talked to Andrew about this, and I know Robin's talked about it, and numerous people, and you're another perfect example of you built all of what you've done while still having your regular W-2 job. And, like you mentioned, you had 6-figure W-2 job, making great money. And you just said, I'm going to work my way to where I build this up. And then I go versus when people are like, well, I've got too much on my plate. I can't do it because I have a W-2 and I'm too busy. You were like, no, I'm going to buy an RV park and do this and do that. And your prime example, just like, again, for anybody that listens to this, that, you don't have to quit your W-2 job
Mhm.
to do it.
Yeah, I think one of the big, I can't remember who said this, whoever's, but I'm sure plenty of people said this, but don't lose perspective of your why. Why
Right.
are you doing this? And that's one thing I had to ask myself when I'm quitting my job is why am I moving into real estate? For me, the why was to have more time where I'm not I'm chained to a desk at an IT job.
Mm-hmm.
But my why was, okay, I want to go take a vacation that's a month long. I want to go up in Colorado in the mountains and man, just, live by the water for a little while. I want to go cycling. I want to go enjoy life. Like
Yeah.
I want to go hike that trail when I'm 40 years old, not when I'm 65, when I can't make it up to the top anymore. Not everybody, the older I get, the more I realize not everybody makes it to 65.
Right.
When it's retirement age or 62 or whatever they're going to retire at. But also too, who you are in your 60s is not going to be who you are in your 30s or 40s.
Right.
I want to live life. I want to go enjoy a lot of things. I want to travel, and I want to, a lot of the travel involves walking. Last year I went to Italy, and it's like you're walking 10 miles a day.
Mm-hmm.
And oh man, by the end of the night, like my legs are sore. I'm not used to walking
Yeah.
that much. And I think to myself, I'm like, wow, could I have done this in their 60s? Like,
Yeah.
I hope I can, but I don't want to chance it.
Yeah.
And not be able to do that. So my why was to have more time. And the time that I do spend working on real estate, I'm working on building my empire,
Mm-hmm.
not somebody else's empire. Somebody's not just paying me X amount of dollars for my time, and I have to be there every day and sell my time. I'm doing things that'll pay me for years and years to come.
You bought I like to equate it to buying your time back. It's two things. One, your why is what drives you when shit's gonna go wrong, or you're like the stuff you've dealt with. You're like, man, I feel easier. I didn't have to deal with this person or that or this. So your why is what keeps you going.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're buying as you have that W-2 job. You otherwise you just buy your time back. Eventually, you bought it back to a point where you go, all right, I'm ready to cash in.
Mm-hmm.
And then you cashed in all your time, and now you've got your time, and it's just you versus most people they don't buy their time back. That's how I look at it. That's kind of, I have the very similar mentality. I agree with you 100%. Like that's the whole purpose of it is we buy our time back. So when we're ready to actually cash in, it's there.
Yeah.
And most people don't realize that. I remember I told a friend of mine that one day, my buddy Jose, and he was like, buy your time back. I'm like, that's what you should be doing, man. If you're working all this time for someone else, there's nothing wrong with it. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that.
Mm-hmm.
But buy it back eventually. Get it, at least do something else where you can go, I'm going to buy it all back.
So I will say another book that I just recently read that I listened to didn't read audio books. I was driving. It was called Life in Air. Have you?
I haven't heard of
Okay.
Life in Air.
Life in Air?
Okay.
Okay.
I got to look
So
that up.
It's really good. And, you have kids, and I've got a daughter as well. And it's not, okay, vacations and traveling and doing stuff is great,
Mm-hmm.
but also having more time with your kids. And
Yeah.
My daughter just turned 16. I'm like, oh, in 2 years, she's an adult. And I'm just like, what happened to the time?
Yeah.
Like, where'd it go? So to be able to spend more time with your family is huge.
Yeah.
In the book Life in Air talks about that. It's like, okay, so you make a certain amount of money. Is it more important that you have a brand new truck a big house, a boat, ATVs,
Mhm.
or is it more important that you spend time with your family? You know,
Yeah.
and for me, like spending time with family and friends, living intentionally, that's what, you know, growing up, or even all the time, you're always inundated by ads. Buy this, do this,
Mhm.
spend this money, live like this, live like, I see my friends that have all these big houses and nice trucks and stuff. I know that they're going to be working for 20, 30 years paying off all that debt.
Mhm.
They're chained to their
They're
desk.
chained. Yeah.
Yeah.
You get to wake up when you want.
Yeah, I don't want
Yeah.
that. And it's like, okay, this week I can decide, well, hey, I'm going to go work on some houses in Waco. I'm going to go help out with some rehabs there. I'm going to work on a project. Or maybe next week I decide I want to go to Big Bend for a week with my friend.
Yeah.
I don't have to ask for PTO. I just reschedule some contractors and some jobs where I'm going to be gone all week.
Yep.
And with that said, one of the things I did last year as well is I hired an assistant. You know, some people hire overseas assistants. I hired one locally because I wanted somebody that could go to the RV park,
Mhm.
when I'm not there, but also to just somebody who I can meet with if I need to or whatnot. And it worked out to be pretty good. The lady I have working for me, she just wanted to work part time, which is great. I only wanted to pay for a part time person.
Yeah.
She has experience being like an executive assistant before, so it already works out pretty good. So a lot of the phone calls, she fields a lot of the phone calls from the RV park. She handles like insurance documents and turn on utilities for this, or
Mhm.
resolve these issues. Like right now, I've got a bunch of workers coming into the RV park, and who's going to come to what space and whatnot. She spends she'll work a whole day on getting all that lined out, put together. Oh, that's so great.
Yeah.
It's so
You bought your time.
yeah. Again, I bought my time again. So every time you kind of step up as you put more stuff on your plate, especially at the RV park, I couldn't offload it to a property manager, but I
Right.
can offload it to an assistant to handle a lot of this stuff. The Wi-Fi's out. Hey, can you call them and be on hold for 2 hours?
Mhm.
Talk with a technician and schedule that, and then tell everybody when the Wi-Fi's going. Like stuff like that's so time consuming.
Yeah.
And it's so great that I can pay her to handle a lot of
The
those
the
things.
further you went, the more systems and processes you had to put in place, and
Yeah.
the more individuals, and it's beneficial on both sides because she gets, she's employed, and
Hmm.
and if she's good at what she does and she loves what she does, then she's happy.
Yeah.
They don't all have to. Everybody has to do what we all want to do. But
Yeah.
Yeah, like that you get to free yourself from a job, but you also get to employ others,
Yeah, for sure.
yeah,
create jobs for
It
others.
is. I want real estate's kind of weird. Is that it almost always seems like it's a win-win-win situation,
right,
and I've never been in a different industry where people are so willing to help you.
hmm
Like I texted a buddy of mine the other day. I'm like, gosh, I'm looking for a good handyman. He's like, here's a great guy that I use. Give him a call.
yeah,
It's like any other industry, they'd be like, oh, no, that's a secret. I'm not going to share that with you. They might not have a meeting where somebody gets together and they show, like, here's how I put together a deal and here's the money I made on this and you can learn from me. Or, hey, you can be under my wing. I've worked with a couple of people that have questions. They're just starting out with their first transaction or first deal. I actually have lunch with a lady later this week that, she's wanting to get into real estate. And I figure, like working with Robin and Cindy and their team, and they've taught me so much. And I feel like, okay, now I'm at a point to where I can give back to others.
yeah,
I don't want to charge for it. I just want, hey, here's how you do. You can learn from some of the mistakes that I've made. I didn't have a whole lot of that in the very, very beginning, but as I started to really, have exponential growth, those people, those groups, and all the people I talked to they made it happen.
yeah, yeah. It's funny. When we first were before we started, you asked the question about why the podcast. Like, why did you guys start it? And to kind of add to what you mentioned is as we've been through the group with Rob and Cindy, they've helped us tremendously as well. And you go through, and I'm like, and I started telling our story and helping other friends, and I was like, man, if I could just do it once, right? Like sit here and have discussions and meet with individuals, like I get to share that, and then I
Mhm.
also get to document. You've got a daughter, you get to document all of your stuff, and then one day, when you do, if hopefully you don't go early, but if so, you can literally, hey guys, here's everything you needed to know to run what you're about to run.
Mhm.
Get ready,
Yeah.
start learning.
Yeah.
Now's the time.
Here's
And,
your education.
it's our way of like, we don't run ads on this show or anything, so it's our way of being able to give back,
Yeah.
and not because I'm sure that as you help other individuals, you're going to say a lot of the same things
Mhm.
over and
Oh,
over,
yeah.
and it doesn't mean it's wrong. It's just you're going to say it over and over and over. But if you can just say it once and it can be spread, multiple times. That's one of the
Mhm.
reasons why we started it, because I was like,
Mhm.
man, I could just go through this and then be able to share all of it with people. You know, we've had people as far as Guam, and I mean, I've had like, it's crazy that you start, you know, when you look at who's listening to podcasts, it's not just the United States. You
The
got
reach.
Guam, you got Australia. Like,
Mhm.
it's a reach. You're like, there's more reach, and there's someone out there who's listening and going, man, I've thought about RV parks. And now I know this a little bit of the story. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah.
And then of course, you know, anyone who ever is a guest, if they ever want to give their information, they can always, you know, be able to share that, because someone may say, you know what, I want to email Ryan real quick and
Yeah.
get introduced, because, and who knows what that's going to lead into, you know, who knows? But it was you know, because Robin and Cindy do a great job of giving back by doing what they've set up, you know, every week. And I was like, man, this is my way of doing it, you know,
Mhm.
is doing that. It's a podcast.
And from a personal aspect, our kids can go back and watch this and stuff, you know,
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
They're
we're
going to watch.
gone, and our grandkids, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're
and
gonna,
get to know who we were and who we are and
yeah.
what
Good
we
thing
believed in. And
good thing it's not on DVD, because they might not be around. But you're right. That's the why, and so that why is what makes you want to do something, even if you're not making anything from it. You're like, but if there's so much more to that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because we've told a lot of the same stories over and over, but I like to hear other people's stories, and
Yeah.
so why do we do it? Is to be able to expand it out to our, you know, just our kids, but also to help the other ones that, you know, that have thought about it or wanted to do it, because there was nobody ever told us to do it. We just
Mhm.
pretty much what you said. You had to figure this out, you know,
Yeah.
and you
Yeah.
figured it out, you know. So
I put some of that together, and I've made some videos on my YouTube channel. If anybody wants to see it, Swift Realty LLC. So if you just search Swift Realty LLC, you can find that channel, and maybe put a link in it, but in the podcast. But um, so yeah, I've put together like, hey, here's some of the projects that I've started on, and oh my gosh, some of the houses that I've done are horrible. You would not imagine, like when you come across a fridge that's been sitting in the house for 5 years and the power's been out.
yeah,
Don't
never,
open it.
yeah.
Yeah. No, you got to open it and see what's in there. Oh, you got to.
I'm curious. I am that one. We were at the house
Hey.
yesterday, and I was like, I saw the fridge. I was like, I just want to, but I know this is a
Hey,
horrible idea.
I've
Move
got,
it out
I've got
outside
one. I've got a video. It's called Fridge of Doom or something like that or something. But we actually duct taped it, took it out to the
Yes.
yard. I put a respirator on
Oh,
and opened this thing. Oh my gosh. It was horrendous.
that
But
would be a great reel.
yeah. But you know, just going through some of these houses, I show some of the very beginning and how we started,
Mhm.
you know, like walking through a house. And, you know, I have the mindset to where when I look at things, I look at, oh, how nice could this be if we move this wall? How nice could it be if there was actual floors in the house instead of just, you know, rotted out floor joists?
Yeah.
And so I talk a little bit about some of the stuff we're going to do, but then also too, there's an after, so you can see kind of how I did that. And I think one of the last videos I did, I actually put the numbers together. I showed the numbers of how, you know, this is what I bought it for. So I spent a rehab after doing a cash out refund, you know, the whole Burr method.
Mhm.
That's what I got cash back. It's how much I left into the property is what I'm going to make on rental income. So, and then I'll talk about, well, like on that one, I wish I would have got more cash back on that. So I left a little bit of money into the house. Not every deal is 100% perfect. And I think that
Yeah.
sometimes maybe some real estate investors do a disservice of saying like, look at this great deal I did.
Everyone's a home run.
I agree.
It's not. It's
I
not.
100% agree. That's why I like to talk about stories like that are like fuck ups and mistakes, because
Yeah.
because that's the truth. I mean, it's never. I have yet to do a deal that bought me a Lamborghini where I was like, that's it, Misty. We got a Lambo. We're done. Packing it up. See you guys later. I'm never coming back. Like, there's always something wrong,
Yeah.
and I think so many people don't share the screw ups, and that gives the newer people such a false sense of like, it gives you excitement to want to go get
Mhm.
it done,
Yeah.
but by no means does it actually make you like you get really disappointed when you're like, "Man, that's a skinny ass deal. I think I made a
I can
mistake."
say one of the biggest things I've learned last year, or maybe the beginning of this year, was, you know, I bought the second RV park, which is a smaller transaction, and then I bought 12 other properties
Yeah.
last year, so 13 properties total. And you know, you have a budget, and generally a lot of these, what I'll do is I'll work with a private investor, and they'll fund the purchase price and they'll fund the remodel. We'll go in there, remodel it out, rehab it, and then we'll refinance it, rent it out, and move on to the next one.
Yeah.
Well, as you know, budgets don't always line up.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes timelines get pushed out. Hey, I was supposed to have foundation work done last week, but you know, there's an ice storm that moved in.
Yeah.
it is what. And then this week it's going to be raining. Shoot,
Yeah.
I'm 2 weeks past my schedule, and that's money. You
Yeah.
know, I'm losing money because I'm like, oh, I can't do any. And I can't have them come in there and do the drywall because if we move the foundation, we're going to crack the drywall. You
Yeah.
know, so things like that happen. One of the things is, you know, my strategy has always been buy and hold, buy and hold, buy and hold, buy and hold. You know, and I've learned from talking firsthand experience, but also talking with a couple of investor friends that I really should have sprinkled in a couple of flip deals in between that.
Mm.
You know, I should have flipped this one, maybe every third, fourth property, flipped something to make money. Because, okay, maybe a couple of these buy and holds went over budget. Here's $5,000 here, here's $10,000 here. Maybe this one was $15,000 over. Or maybe it got drawn out longer. You know, one of the big things is like, hey, if this project gets extended, then it extends the one next to it. You know, the one after it.
Mm-hmm.
So then all of a sudden you look at your books and you're like, I'm paying $1,500 a month just to have this. We're not even working on it yet. That's the next one in line. You know, but these holding
Yeah.
costs add up quick.
Yeah.
You know, when you got 5 properties under construction, you're looking at what, $8,000 to $10,000 in holding costs a month. Like those are real numbers.
Yeah.
And in the middle of that, you're spending bukus of money buying cabinets and appliances and drywall and lumber, and you're paying workers. And so I think kind of learning from that, if I was to do that over again last year, I probably would have flipped a couple of those. Say,
Mm-hmm.
okay, let's cash out on this one. Let's cash out on this one. And let's use that to fund some of those budget overruns that we're going to have.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense. I like that idea. Just
Very, very rarely does it go where you're under budget.
Right.
Because what you want to do is you want to make it, even though you might put $5,000 in or $10,000 in for overages, you want to make it the most enticing offer as you can, you know, which sometimes, well, now you don't have to as much because the market's kind of cooled off a little
Yeah.
bit.
Yeah.
But you got to be careful in thinking, well, this guy can put in AC system for $3,000 or $5,000 or whatever. Okay, so that's what I put on my budget number. But what if that guy doesn't want to work for you anymore?
Yeah. You got to find somebody else.
Yeah. And now you're like, well, shoot, everybody else is going to charge $8,000 now.
Yeah.
You know, so there's a lot of what ifs and there's a lot of variables. That's a risk.
Yeah.
that
You
you
lost
take-
your
that you take in.
handyman or you lost
Yeah.
somebody else, and they're like, oh, damn.
And,
gotta
and a
spend
lot of
more.
those, you know, time heals all. you
Right.
know.
Right.
Generally
They're booked
speaking.
for 2 months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The book for 2 months. We saw that one the other day. We're going through that. So, man, I want to hear about Waco real quick.
Okay, yeah.
I know you mentioned it, and man, so what are you running in Waco? What's the story there?
So I live in Irving, and I used to always buy rentals in Irving. This is back when you could go to the MLS and you could make an offer on something, you could get it. You know,
Yeah.
you could actually make an offer below asking sometimes, and that was pretty amazing. Over the past 5 years or so, you know, it's just been a bidding war. And especially wholesalers are scooping up deals.
Mhm.
And I'm not going to name any wholesalers, but there's some out there that they'll say, everybody come at Sunday at, 2 p.m.
Right.
And you drive up and there's 10 other cars there and you're like,
Oh, man.
really? It's not even worth me walking. It's just going to be a bidding war. And it's going to be that newbie who thinks, man, I'm going to make $1 million. I'm going to buy that Lambo after this deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, he just read the hype and he's ready for that Lambo, and he's going to pay retail or over retail, he's going to hope that the market continues to go up for the next year or two.
Yeah.
And that's not me.
Yeah.
I'm more conservative. I'm going to buy below market, but also too, as you see, cash flows.
Yep.
That's what I'm in. Everybody has their different reason. I know you're more for assets, but
Yeah.
for me, for asset appreciation, for me, I want from the time we're done with the remodel, I want cash flow because I'm not working a W-2 anymore. I
Right.
need that money to live on, So since that was what I was looking for, I have some experience in Waco because I've had some family that lives in Waco, so I kind of know the area, the good parts, the bad parts, and such like that. So I started looking at what was for sale in Waco, and I found, especially in 2019, I guess when I bought my first house in Waco, I found that you could buy these for a really affordable price, and the 1% rule still applied. You could do 2%, even in Waco. And I'm like, gosh, I can make a lot better cash flow there. And in Waco, I'm buying, $25,000 to $50,000, $60,000 houses,
Yeah.
and doing, quick remodels. And also the Waco, for the area that I was buying, in Dallas and a lot of Irving, they want granite countertops, brand new appliances. The
Mhm.
expectations are a lot higher.
Right.
Ceramic tile flooring, that type of thing. Where in Waco, it's like, central heat and air is a luxury.
That's
People
crazy.
people are used to
Yeah.
window units. So you can go with the Formica countertops. You don't have to go, you don't have to go to the 10th degree, spend a bunch of money on the remodel. Make it operational, make it nice and safe and comfortable. And and so I started buying more and more in Waco. Now, of course, I ran to a couple of stumbling blocks of like, not all lenders want to lend in Waco.
Hmm.
There's some. That's one of the things that some lenders, especially hard money lenders, they want to lend in, say, like big markets, Dallas, Fort Worth. They know that if you just run out, they can sell that house in a couple of days.
But in Waco,
Yeah,
it's not the same.
Waco's a secondary market, but if you go even further out, a small town with 2,000, 5,000 people, something like that, you might have even less hard money lenders.
Mhm.
Um,
But property management, do you find difficult for property
no,
management out
no,
there?
no,
That's
because
pretty
there's enough
pretty simple.
there's enough apartments and rental houses in Waco.
Yeah.
Especially, you got Baylor University, so you got a lot of rentals on that side. I don't necessarily cater to the university side of it. I'm more of the blue collar working side of it.
Hmm.
So yeah, I got
That's the west side of the freeway.
yes,
Yeah.
west side. Yep. So like Dean Highlands 76706. I think. Anyways, Dean Highlands west side of that is where I
They've
cater
done
to.
a lot of. I mean, I know weren't out there long. Weren't out. We were out there not long ago, and they've done a lot of changes as far as the older areas are starting to.
Yeah.
They've really kind of redeveloped in some of
Yeah.
that area. And of course, Chip and Joanna came through, and
The funny thing is the first couple of houses I bought out there, I looked up a realtor that had a good review, and she'd worked with I don't know if she worked with investors, but she had a great review. And so I talked to her and looked at a couple of houses, and I bought a couple of houses through her, and she put me together with a good property manager, and with that property manager, got started with a good rehab team,
Mhm.
and that was working as a husband and wife rehab team, and they did great. Um, and I think probably the second or third house, she said, "Oh, you're kind of like the Chip and Joanna." I'm like, "Who? What are you talking about?" She's like, HGTV. They have the show on there. I'm like, "Yeah, I don't watch that. I don't watch that stuff. Like, I don't know who those people are." And so she told me about it. And she's like, "Oh, you have to go." So I actually went home. I looked it up and I watched a couple of the shows. I'm like, huh, okay. The reason I don't watch stuff like that is because a lot of those HGTV shows, they're like, oh, this horrible house, a horrible house, commercial break, move the bus. Oh, look at this beautiful
Yeah,
house.
yeah,
It's like, wait, you just yada 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 past all the good part.
Yeah. No, you're right.
Yeah.
You're right. I have a friend of mine that was on one of those shows. Him and his wife, and the show they were on was actually for hunting for an island house. And I remember they bought a house, and I knew they already bought the house in this Island Morena, but it was in the Keys, Florida Keys. And so I watched the episode, and they're going through it, and I was like, man, you could tell it's all fake,
Mhm.
and like you said,
Choose between 3 different
yeah, and
properties.
and their property's already on there. So what they did was they moved all their shit out, and then they took a picture, they took the video of it, and then when they were like, oh, we're gonna buy this, and they moved all their shit back in the property. Totally fake.
And I watched I've seen that I've seen TV shows like that, and they're like, here's a 23-year-old couple that just got out of college and their budget's $500,000. I'm
Right.
like, in what world is this?
Dude, I'm like, man, what's my budget?
Yeah, what are they doing? And they're like, well, our budget was $500,000, but I think we can squeeze 600. And I'm like, what? So I spend a lot of my time, reading books and watching YouTube videos on what's the difference between PEX A and PEX B piping,
Mhm.
how to route your own drain lines, how to do electrical work. I've taught myself HVAC repair.
Yeah.
I watched a lot of books on this stuff. I ordered one of the classroom manuals and went through it. And short of having all my hours for a license, I could probably pass the test.
Yeah.
I've actually installed AC units and worked fine, not a problem. So a lot of that's what I want to see. Is I want to see those technical shows. And I started from that beginning, and I've never stopped learning, always learning more. And even though I might not do the work,
Yeah.
if I'm talking with HVAC contractor and he says, well, that's going to be $200 for a capacitor. And I'm like, well, wait, hold on. That run cap is $15.
Mm.
And it takes you 15 minutes to install it. I don't mind paying people for their time,
Right.
but there's plenty of contractors that are, now let's say, not great.
Yeah, you're educated, and you know that
Yeah.
It's a
if you were
fancy
getting
word. It must be expensive.
Yeah. No,
that's one of them $10 words, Misty.
I just recently I had a guy that the AC system wasn't working on an Irving house, and then he called his buddy up to come look at the electrical. It's supposed to be an electrician, and he texted me. He's like, "Hey, we're gonna need to replace the entire breaker box. Like, the breaker box has to be replaced." And I'm like, "Really?" Like, I was like, "It's not that old in this house. Why? It's from something of the last decade or so." And he's quoting me like $3,000 worth of work, and I'm like, "Gosh, that doesn't sound right." So I'm like, "Hold on, I'll be over there." So I drove up there. The AC guy's there, his buddy, who's supposed to be an electrician, and I start talking terms and electrical jargon and stuff like that. I'm like, "Where's your meter? Did you test this? Are you getting both phases on here? Are you getting continuity through this breaker?" And he's just looking at me like, "Oh," like he
Uh-oh.
didn't know how to answer these questions.
Uh-oh.
So I go out to my truck, I pull the meter out of my truck, switch the power off, and I'm checking all the breakers and stuff like that. I'm like, "Hey, here's your problem right here. Your main breaker's bad." He says, "Well, you can't get one of those." And so I pull up Home Depot app on my phone. I'm like, "Here it is, $75." I said, "You want to go buy this breaker for $75 and charge me an hour of labor?" And he's been found out, and then now he doesn't want to do any work. Now he wants to leave. I just saved myself several $1,000s.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
granted, he'll never talk to me again. I'll never see him again because he's found out. Now he doesn't even want to do the work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now I have to be ready either to do the work or call another electrician to come do it. But I've
At
saved
least you know you won't be taken advantage of.
I've saved
Would you-
myself so much money on that.
Would you like me to go ahead and have this shipped to your house or my house?
Yeah. Yeah.
I can just add to cart right now.
Yeah. So
That-
so
so
going back to Waco, so I could buy those properties a lot cheaper, and I could rent them out. I could make better cash flow on those properties. I didn't get the asset accumulation that I did in Irving, but also too at that time in the past several years, I wasn't willing to pay retail, even if I was going to make that up in the value of the asset eventually over several years. I just didn't want to be in that liable situation to where if I needed to sell the property, I couldn't sell it, or it wouldn't appraise for high enough.
yeah.
So yeah, I started doing properties in Waco, and it kept growing, and I just kept buying more. And the funny thing is, the more you network with people, I'd go to, "Hey, here's a happy hour, bunch of investors, or maybe we have some bankers and people like that." You just start talking to people. I start talking to this investor, that investor, talk to property managers. Heck, I got 3 duplexes that my property manager brought to me. The owner's just, "Hey, I just want to sell these.
Mhm.
If it's the right offer, then I'll sell them."
You have less competition in Waco, huh?
Yeah, less competition, but it's kind of like the snowball effect. Once you get the word out, I got business cards. I've got
We're gonna cut this whole part of the podcast out. We're just gonna leave this in the. We're gonna leave this in the vault.
no, but like,
Disney come out every 15 years.
I got business cards that I hand out, and it says $1,000 referral.
Yeah.
And I had a painter bring a house to me. It's his wife that was, I guess she's a realtor. Or I don't exactly know the deal, but they had a house that they would just got in. It was over their head. It needed all kinds of foundation work, and they're just like, we just can't do it. So he said, "Hey, I got this house that we want to sell it." We negotiated, closed on the house, and I handed him $1,000 check.
Hmm.
And I got no problem doing deals like that. And that
Yeah.
word gets around. The other guys, "He just made $1,000 for telling." But yeah, if I buy it, I don't mind paying a referral fee.
Yeah.
And same with any other agents I know. Like, I pay their full commission.
Right.
I'm not gonna 1%, 2%. I'm not gonna get picky about that, because I want it to be a win-win situation, because that agent might be bringing me, a home run deal next month.
Yep.
And if I got pissy about $500, I might miss out on $10,000, $20,000 deal that I could have made.
Yeah. No, it makes sense. I'd pay someone $1,000 if they brought me a good deal and
Yeah.
closed on it. I mean, it makes perfect sense. And I agree with on the agent part too. We see that a lot where people try to skip out on the agent commissions. And
Mhm.
I mean, on the buying side, they're working their ass off.
Oh,
you know.
yeah.
especially on the buying side, trying to get a deal to go through or whatnot, or they're
Hmm.
coming across stuff. I mean, they work hard, you
Yeah,
know.
no,
So
and I work my agents hard.
yeah,
Run
yeah,
some comparables for me. What is this going to do? What is,
yeah.
negotiate this or that, and or or even go find this person, go talk to this person, that type of thing. But also too, I'm quick to make my decisions. I don't leave them hanging.
Right.
Either this is going to work, or sorry, my numbers don't work.
Mhm.
And with wholesalers or agents, they want that clear communication. Nobody wants to be ghosted ever.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And I've had some contractors that I won't work with anymore because they ghost me. Have that so much where they can get another job. Maybe it's making a little bit more money or a bigger project, and they just completely ghost me. Like,
Yeah.
That
just
little
be,
phrase in the contract, time is of the essence.
yeah, I mean, I had an electrician that was supposed to go to the RV park. He's like, yeah, I'll be there at noon. Poof, just disappeared off
Right.
because the job was going to be hard, and he just disappeared.
Did you send him the ghost emoji? That's why I like to send emojis
I
of
called him,
ghosts.
texted nothing. Oh my gosh. But yeah, so even like wholesalers, I'll have a wholesaler, maybe it brings me a deal, and I'm like, look, man, even though it's a great deal, I'm 6 projects I'm working on. I got 6 going on right now. Sorry, I can't bring on another one right now.
Yeah.
But hey, I'll send this to my buddy, whoever, and maybe they'll take a look at it, type thing.
Yeah. Man, I love it, man. Dude.
Add us to your buddy list.
Yeah.
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 I love it, man.
No, exactly. I work with other investors I work with. They say, hey, I work this area, I work this area, I work this area. And so if I'm not going to do a deal, maybe it's outside of my area, and I just don't. I'll hand it off to them.
Yeah.
You
We
know?
all have our preferences. There's all certain
Yeah,
things
yeah.
that you like, you're like, that's why I like hearing different stories, because, here in the RV park and that, different stuff, and kind of your view on
Mhm.
things like Waco and that, like, where someone else might be like, I'll never touch it, But
Yeah.
everyone has the same goals, and they get there a little bit, or has similar goals, get there a little bit different. And it's just, it's just your
We
own
take
path.
different routes.
Different roads, man.
Yeah.
Some harder than others.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely, I love the way you put that, and just, you want to take care of the people that you work with, all that stuff. You need it
Mhm.
all. So,
Yeah.
man, I love it, man. I appreciate you coming on today.
Yeah.
I'd love to. We're gonna bring back. So anybody's listening to this, I'm gonna bring other guests back, and I want to bring you back too, and actually do some deal breakdown here sometime.
Yeah.
So we'll actually go through and take a certain deal, and you break it down all the way through to what was the best part about it and what was the worst part about it, and mistakes and stuff that you made, and we can learn from it. So, but man, I loved having you out. Man, fantastic stories. And I'd love to have you back on again.
For sure.
And I
Thanks for having
appreciate
me.
the time. So, all right, guys, that is a wrap, and we'll catch you guys next time.